Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the No BS Human Design Podcast. I'm your host, Adriana Keefe, the Human Design Priestess. It has been literally years since I've done this chart reading, and I'm so excited to dive in even deeper. It's been fucking months since I've been here on YouTube in general. We've spent the last year, all of 2025, really streamlining my business. So YouTube was kind of put on the back burner. But for some episodes like this one I'm about to do, where it's really helpful to see the chart, I'm going to air it here on YouTube so you can follow along. But this will also be audio only on the podcast. So I guess you pick what feels really good for you. So if you want to know my initial, I don't even want to call it love story because it's not love, interest in MGK, Machine Gun Kelly, in the episode, I will link in the show notes below that I did 2 years ago. I started doing the basics of his human design chart deep dive. And you can go there to listen all about the basics and all about how I found him. And well, kind of, I knew who he was, but whatever. I digress. That whole story is in there. And now, in honor of his new album and his upcoming tour, which of course I am going to see him in Boston, I wanted to dive even deeper into his chart. So if you are brand new to his energy, his human design, I would recommend going and watching the first episode first so you can get the understandings of his 1-3 projector, splenic projector, and understand what that is all like, because on this one, we're going to go even deeper. What I do want to say, I want to preface this with, I don't follow celebrity gossip, celebrity stuff. I literally learn things through the Alexa in my kitchen or my husband. And a lot of the readings that I'm doing, it comes from the lyrics that I hear in his songs that provoked me for sure. And the intuition that comes through me for whatever messages need to be out there in case he ever hears it, in case you hear it and you have the same energy, whatever message is coming through me intuitively for you to hear to help you. So today, what we're going to be diving deep on are his channel of struggle. I've got that one too, yippee. Core wound, his observer designed body, his solar plexus and emotional turmoil, and what that really means for chaos and his life, and his north and south node, since he will be in the next nodal cycle going through his nodal return. So not this cycle, which is actually my nodal return, which I'm very intimately aware of with my nodes right now. That's a whole nother story. I just did a podcast episode about my personal journey with the nodes. So of course, I am curious more about the nodes than I ever have before. And I wanted to wrap his chart reading up with his evolution from the south node into the north node and everything he's been going through and how that's going to evolve into the rest of his life. So I'm going to share my screen now, start the reading, maybe get a notebook and pen. That way, if you have similar design, similar energies in your design, you can take a lot from learning a little bit more about MGK and his energy. All right, let's dive in. Okay, let's go deeper. So if you are new to human design, like I recommended, going and looking at his first episode, his first chart reading that I did 2 years ago, which we will link below. That's where I talk about his 1-3 profile, his splenic projector energy and what that looks like and what that means. So today we're going to go a little bit deeper, and we're going to start with his channel of struggle. So this 2838. If you are unfamiliar with the gates and the centers in the body graph, any center that has color in it means it is defined, meaning you have a consistent access to the energy of that center. It is consistent for you. Anything that is open or undefined means that you are taking in from the world around you. So it's a lot more fluid in those centers. And every center has its own theme of energy, of how you process information through a certain way. So in the spleen, this is the splenic center right here. This is all intuition, health, safety, survival. And in the root down here on the bottom, this is pressure and drive and stress. So we understand that the numbers in here, which are gates, which are energy traits that you will have, are going to have those themes that of the centers that they lie in. So the 28, knowing it's in the spleen, even if you don't remember what all these gates, all these energetic gifts are, you can remember that it has something to do with intuition, safety, survival, health. And the same with the 38 down here. You're going to know that it has to do with pressure and stress and drive and ambition of some sort. So the 28 and the 38. He has both of these activated in his chart, just like I do. So I can speak from personal experience for a lot of this reading, actually. I can, which is really helpful. This means that he has both gates, which connect and form almost like a baby. It's like another energy within the channel. They're always talking back and forth, and that in itself creates its own kind of energy. It is called the channel of struggle, but keep in mind, these names were by an old white dude who was not emotionally intelligent. Let's just say it like it is. It is not something that you're going to struggle your entire life. This does not mean you have to fall into victim and woe is me, like I'm blah, whatever. No, this is struggling for the correct purpose. This means you're here to struggle, but only for what truly matters. It is like the existential warrior, the person who intuitively sees the difference between surface level survival and soul level meaning. So MGK, like myself, is literally wired to challenge life. But if he's not aligned, he'll just feel like life is a constant fight, like picking battles over everything, struggling over everything, instead of deciding what feels like a purposeful struggle and what doesn't. So this can mean going through dark, chaotic periods without clear reason until maybe the meaning reveals itself later, or maybe you recognize that you're struggling just to fucking struggle, which happens way more than you would think. Once you start to pay attention to this, you see it in your everyday life. Like me with my kids, for example, and struggling with certain things at bedtime. I would struggle just to have control or have my way or think it was supposed to be a certain way, when in reality, it wasn't a purposeful struggle. It was, let me just let them do what they're going to do and we'll get ready for bedtime and things will be just fucking fine, right? It can be as minor as everyday things like that, or as massive as literally your career or your meaning that you're seeking here in life. So it can be a life that swings between intensity and insight, intensity and insight. Now, what's extra interesting is this gate 28 is in his personality. So this side is the personality. This is like what you see in astrology. This is what astrology picks up. However, the other side, the design where the red numbers are, this is your body. This is what astrology does not pick up, as far as I know. I'm not an astrology expert, but I'm pretty sure I've never heard anyone talk about how the body has its own design itself. So in his personality, his conscious side, he has gate 28 in his earth, meaning it's a primary energetic challenge that grounds his entire energy through resistance and polarity. In the gene keys, they call this the pathway of challenge. If you don't know what the gene keys are, don't worry about it. Just ride with me here. And it's about a deep evolutionary pressure to find purpose in the chaos. So in the shadow, this can show up as purposelessness, but the gift is totality, living fully, even if the outcome is not certain. So when he anchors in this energy of purposefulness and totality, and finding the things that drive him that are worth the fight, it grounds his entire personality. His magnetism comes through this lived depth. Excuse me. And then the fact that, let's see, the other end of this channel of struggle, the fact that he has gate 38 4 times in his chart, like me, his Uranus, his Neptune, his design Mercury, design Neptune, is insane in like the best way. Some of us, lucky few, born in like 89 and 90, we just have a lot of that 38 energy 4 times. When something shows up so many times in a chart, because it's actually not super common to have the same gate show up so many times, it is going to be a very big theme of your life. And I can attest to that. So this is like putting amplifiers, 4 amplifiers on the archetype of the fighter for purpose. Gate 38 is about the opposition, not rebellion just for rebellion's sake. It's about standing against what's meaningless and protecting what's sacred. So with his gate in Uranus, he rebels through meaningful struggle. Unpredictable, yeah, but principled. I think that's the right word. Principled, yeah. And then Neptune, twice, there's a spiritual fog around what he's fighting for. So it might take time to see it clearly, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like amazing. His design, Mercury, communicating through this energy, his words carry the tone of someone who's fighting for purpose. Like, even if he doesn't always articulate it clearly. So the gate 38, the gate 28, this channel together means someone who will either feel like life is a war zone or a sacred mission. You get to choose your hard, right? And I'm seeing a lot of that I've only watched like one documentary of him, maybe one interview, and then listened to a fuck ton of his music. And I feel that in his music. I hear that in his music. Now, moving over to the core wound. This one I didn't really pay much attention to in the first reading, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I see this. So, where do I want to start here? Core wound is your design Mars. Your core wound, I did a whole episode on this, so you can look for that in the podcast. I don't think it was on YouTube, the regular podcast. The core wound is called the core wound because it's an energy that you are born with, that you are designed to heal through. It's also called your vocation because what is the one thing that people who fucking love their career, love their work have in common? It is always something that was found through their own personal journey of healing, through their own wounding. And then they bring what they've learned back to the collective in one way, shape, or form, may or may not be making money doing it. And that's why it's called their vocation. So this is gate 11 in the ajna, which is the gate of ideas. And it really is meaning from the past and dreaming new possibilities. So because his ajna, this center right here, is open, he doesn't have consistent access to mental structure, to thought processing. His thoughts are more fluid, more expansive. But they're also vulnerable to mental comparison, like trying to prove he has the best ideas. Hi, also open heart center with our fluid self-worth for sure. Doubt, so second guessing, creative shifts. He's had a lot of creative shifts. I would not be surprised if he has second guessed them. Even though he's pushed through, I would not be surprised if he second guesses them all the time. Inconsistent clarity. So some days he feels like a total genius and other days he might feel like totally lost. Like, do I even know what the fuck I'm doing? So when gate 11 sits in here, the wound is, will anyone get it? Especially when he evolves, reinvents, transitions styles. There's going to be that part of him that's like, fuck it. I don't care if anyone gets it, because he has a line 4. The archetype here is a line 4. But his he is continuing to evolve because he feels that pull. He knows he has to. Splenic, projector, right? Intuitive hits he's getting. But he can't help but question, will anyone get it? Will anyone be there for me? So it can feel really inconsistent, his worthiness and stability around these ideas he has. Now, going back to the line 4, his profile line adds some nuance to this gate 11. So in the gene keys, 4 is the core wound is all about heartbreak through rejection, through not belonging. I am literally a line 4 in my highest profile. So I feel this to my core. It's the 11 to, wait, why am I tripping up over my words? Oh, okay. I know why I'm tripping. Because before I do any reading, I ask spirit to come in and deliver any messages and help me feel what I need to feel to deliver the reading. And whenever it's in the ajna, something I'm talking about, I trip up over my words and I get confused because that is the open ajna, right? That is, the ideas are kind of everywhere. And now I'm struggling to connect them to the throat because there's no connection here. So let me take a deep breath. Thank you. I can get his confusion. I can feel his confusion as I'm doing this. But it's confusion and struggling to find clarity in words sometimes, but that inner knowing is still very much there. Like, it doesn't feel incorrect. Okay, back to line 4. The 11.4, I should say, the line 4 of gate 11 archetype is something like, maybe I shared my ideas and I was cast out. I was shunned. I brought my truth and no one wanted it. So for him, it could very much look like fear of outgrowing the tribe, especially with his musical evolution. Pain when people criticize his transitions, like from rap to pop punk to more alternative. really going between fuck what they think and deep emotional pain when people don't receive his work. Yep, I get that as a line 4. So this isn't just ego, it's the wound of being rejected for his ideas, especially ones that feel like soul expressions. Hi, gate 2, we talked about this in the first one, sense of direction. So everything, if I were talking to someone who had this 11.4 right now in their core wound, I would tell you, you are the visionary storyteller. There is no need to be right. You're just willing to dream for the collective. And your deepest transformation will come when you stop needing your ideas to be accepted and start trusting that you are a mirror for others' unexpressed creativity. And you will heal this part of you. You will continue to move through and heal the fear that's coming up every time you switch directions or come up with a new idea or new story, as long as you continue to lean into the discomfort and ground your body and rewire your nervous system. All the basic things I always talk about. You will move through this and it will become a very stable, steady, knowing part of you. Now, that being said, it is still an open ajna. So even if your body is completely safe and feeling grounded in it, you're still going to have haywire thoughts every now and then. And that is okay. You're designed to be fluid, right? But overall, this is going to be something he brings back and teaches the collective. Maybe it's how he moved through this energy. Maybe it's through stories in his songs that we hear about it, or maybe it's directly. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. The other thing that jumped out at me when I opened up his chart again was his variables on his body side. I mean, technically his 3 right facing, but if you're not familiar with variable, we won't go too deep into it, but this is how his body digests information, digests food, takes in life, takes in his environment, his correct environment for his energy. And when these arrows are right facing, you're more passive. Excuse me. You're designed to be more passive. And when I look at his body, he's actually an observer and not someone who's designed to be observed, which blows my mind when I see a performer in observer environment. Basically, that means you need space to watch life, not be in the thick of it. The body is not built for action. It's built for absorption, for witnessing, for fluidity, for environmental resonance. So he lives in the public eye, but energetically, he's not really meant to be seen through performance. He's meant to observe and express what others can't see for themselves. And I will say, from seeing him in concert at least once so far, I was surprised to see that because he puts on a hell of a good fucking concert. I would have pegged him for an observed body. I have an observed body, so I know what that feels like. It feels like I'm always the one in the front of the class. I don't mind being watched. Sounds really fucking kinky right there. But I really am. I'm designed to be on stages. I've always known that eyes were meant to be on me. It's this something that's very natural for me. And I'd be super curious if I ever got to hear what it feels like for him as an observer body, being someone who performs on stage pretty consistently, because this is someone who's designed to float, to feel, to sense and reveal, which he does through his music really fucking well. Like that's probably part of what adds to his incredible storytelling, but he's not a performer in the traditional sense. He's a visionary observer, more like a mirror. So his artistry is a side effect of his sensory intake, not a result of force, and not something that I don't want to put words into like saying he probably doesn't want to be on stage, because I don't believe that to be true. I think you wouldn't tour as much if you didn't want to be on stage, but it's very interesting. This is something that I would love to explore deeper if I ever got a chance to talk to him and hear about what that's like for him. Okay. Now I want to jump into the one thing that really caught me in his new album that I was like, oh shit, I need to dive back into his chart. This is good. This is so good. This is something I have actually been moving through and talking about a lot recently on the podcast. I've actually moved through it over the recent years. I've been pretty steady and stable in it for a few years now, until recently when I'm noticing like, oh shit, that desire's back. And now I'm noticing what he's saying in his songs. And I'm like, okay, this is one of my favorite things to talk about is the emotions and amplified emotion and chaos and turmoil of the solar plexus. So one of the lines in one of his songs, I can never remember what fucking song it is life goes to shit just to write again. And ping, I immediately am like, oh, he feels he can only find his creativity after chaos. His creativity comes from heartbreak, from emotional downfall, all of this shit. And before I get carried away, let's just dive into that. He has an open solar plexus. Solar plexus is all emotions, moods, spiritual awareness. And an open solar plexus does not feel emotion consistently, remember? Instead, it absorbs and amplifies the emotional waves of others, often without realizing that they aren't their own emotions, because this isn't something we're taught when we're little, right? Unless you're my kids. Thankfully, they have this information. So this can create deep discomfort with confrontation or with emotional honesty. This can create subconscious manipulation or avoidance strategies, creating chaos, withdrawing. And it can also feel very much like I feel so much that I just need to act on this, almost like an emotional pressure. But here's the thing when you're not aligned with an open solar plexus, you can seek emotional intensity as a false form of creative spark or clarity, or just to feel something. So when MGK says in one of his songs, life goes to shit just so I can write again, energetically, what's happening is his system has learned to associate creative access with emotional breakdown. And this is actually something that the original channeler of Human Design, Ra Uru, does talk about is the melancholy of gate 55. I've gone deep into this gate as it's in my North Node. And it's a very emotional gate. And there is something to melancholy and depression and finding creative energy through that. And I found that doesn't have to be the only way. So let's go through each of these gates here. Starting with gate 36. This is the crisis and experience gate. It's highly emotional, highly experiential, and it's drawn to intensity. So it could be a desire to feel something, even if it's messy. Maybe it's a pattern of pushing boundaries just for the feeling of it, or an unconscious addiction to emotional chaos as proof of feeling alive. My husband and I complete this channel. I have the 35, he has the 36. So in our relationship, I used to see that. I've come a long way with this play out a lot with me trying to stir up shit just to feel something spark from him again. And not to say he doesn't spark anything in me. That sounds really backwards. But like, you know what I'm talking about? When you get into a fight with someone and they have to chase you, or there's just this emotion that makes you just feel something again instead of the everyday mundane feelings that we have, especially as being parents and being married for X amount of years and so many things that can feel the same. So we would seek emotional intensity just to feel something new. And I very much see this happening in his life, especially through his words and his songs. But the gift of this 36 is compassionate emotional depth through experience, through navigating experience, not endless drama. It is like the emotional mediator. How can I navigate this emotional experience and then help others do the same? That is why it's connected to the throat center. It's reaching for the throat center. How can I communicate, manifest in real life, how to help others do the same? I hope that makes sense. And then gate 22, this is all about emotional grace. It is the emotional voice, deeply sensitive to tone, to timing, the vibe of a room. It's very poetic. It's very powerful. And in an open center, it can chase approval through emotional charm. It can be highly reactive or even performative and very much feel unworthy if you're not received with warmth and attention. So the high expression is emotional grace and presence. speaking truth from deep, calm integrity. And then, oh my gosh, my favorite. I've been moving through this one so hard in my North Node in this nodal return. Gate 55, spirit through emotion. This is the holy grail of emotional creativity. It is about emotional frequency as a creative source. The high is divinely inspired and the low is deeply depressive. So in an open center, this can attach to emotional lows as the only way to feel real or feel inspired. And you can self-sabotage just to hit the bottom and write again. Create stories like I have to be broken in order to make art. But the truth is that gate 55 doesn't require the low. It requires honesty and it requires spirit connection. So when MGK allows himself to feel the frequency rather than seek the drama, he channels pure artistry from emotional authenticity instead of pain. If I were to have him as a client or someone who's in a similar writing creative situation as him as a client, I would first start with the nervous system work, of course, of the beliefs in melancholy and depression and drama being the only source of creation. But then I would also dive deep into Kundalini, into Shakti energy, and how we can rise that spiral to the surface to create and co-create with spirit what needs to come through us. That is what I have found to be the key with the 55. That is what I do. So now my life looks a lot less drama filled and a lot more connection to spirit and letting them create through me. So I have debunked that for fucking sure. That is the work I have been doing in my priestess path. That is one of the main pieces of work I've been doing, is proving I do not have to be in a depressed state. I do not have to be in emotional turmoil in order to create magic. I choose to connect with spirit and let spirit, universe, source create through me. That doesn't mean that we're never going to have lows. This is still a wave of its own, an emotional wave that can carry intensities. And that doesn't have to mean anything about our creative process. Oh, fucking love talking about the 55. I could keep going, but I'm gonna not. All right. Now, how do I want to wrap that up? So the pattern that I see, not just in him, in so many fucking people, is the subconscious emotional sabotage as the creative ritual. So right now, his nervous system might equate emotional chaos with inspiration, but that is not what's meant to be for you. That is conditioning. So learning to access emotional frequency without creating problems, using emotional presence as a muse instead of an emotional crisis, and allowing the creative process to source from truth. Nervous system work, deliberate solitude, I would add there too. Lots of solitude with this open solar plexus so you can figure out what emotions are yours, and rewiring the beliefs and Kundalini energy. Okay, now we can move on. Last but not least, I want to touch on his North and South Node on his personality. We're going to focus on personality today to not get too confusing. And I also easily see how that not wraps up. That's not the right word. How that connects with everything that he's moving through right now. So the South Node is a little upside down horseshoe right here. And that's in gate 33. This is in the throat center. If you want to hear more about gate 33, the gate of retreat, that's in the first chart reading I did. But this is basically the death of the ego. So gate 33 is all about privacy and memory and retelling of stories. In the South Node, this represents where he's been, his karmic comfort zone, if you will. And it tells us he's lived from the shadows of emotional memory. He's processed life by withdrawing, observing, and telling stories from pain. He's held on to the past, both his own and others. Creativity came after the storm as reflection and storytelling. There is a bit of a melancholic energy to this as well, with all of the holding of the stories and the memories, like watching life from the edge and turning your trauma into your art. So in the shadow, it plays out as emotional detachment, observing instead of feeling. Nostalgia, that might keep you stuck, like it was so much better when, and waiting for pain so you can process it into music later. But in the next nodal return, high North Node in gate 19, you are being asked to release that. Gate 19 is all about sensitivity and need, emotional attunement. Do you see the pattern here? It's about recognizing need, especially emotional and spiritual need. You see how it connects up to the solar plexus. It's reaching from the root to the solar plexus in yourself and in others. So this is massive for MGK because it asks him to stop being the withdrawn poet and start being the emotionally present partner, human. It shifts into, or it invites him to shift into vulnerability, feeling in real time instead of hiding in emotional replays, emotional intimacy, like letting people in, embodiment, feeling desire and connection to his body, not just his music, and service, using his sensitivity to connect instead of protect. So from past to presence, from 33 to 19, it's a shift from solitude to connection, withdrawal to vulnerability, storytelling after the fact to feeling it in the moment, emotional detachment to sacred sensitivity. So the deeper message is he doesn't need to tell the story of pain anymore. He's here to be the space for emotional healing and intimacy. If he integrates this shift, like I said earlier, his next nodal return is the next axis. So what's that, a year and a half from now or so, maybe? His music can evolve into emotional truth in real time, not just reflections on chaos. His relationships can become safer, deeper, less volatile. I mean, I don't know if his relationships now are volatile, but I would guess, looking at this and hearing his music, that's what I would guess. His creative process can soften. He won't need to burn it all down just to access his soul and his creation. And maybe he even becomes a cultural, is vision the right word? Embodied role model, since it is in the line 6, profile line 6. This is role model. This is my second line. He can become a cultural role model of what it means to feel again. And this matches his right facing observer design beautifully because he's here to absorb, to witness, and to express truth with grace and with compassion, not emotional addiction. So I can't wait to see after his next nodal return. He does seem like someone who's spiritually attuned, or at least tries to continue to grow both internally and externally, especially with that splenic authority, those intuitive hits. So I'm curious what the next 3 to 4 years are going to look like for him and what comes out through him. I think he has a lot of really fucking great potential to be such a gorgeous role model and leader. He literally has so many leadership storytelling ways that he speaks. It's going to be good. It's going to be interesting for sure. It's been a journey watching him evolve just through his music. I should say hearing him evolve. And I'm excited to see his next concert and what he brings to the table during that. So I think that is all for today. We went a lot deeper. If there's any other, I was going to say celebrity, but to be honest, I fucking love musician charts because you can hear you can see, what am I trying to say? You can hear their design through their music. So I love looking at the charts of musicians. If there's anyone else that you want me to do a reading on, let me know. And I would love to dive into their chart if it feels like a resonance with me energetically. So that wraps up the chart reading for today. I love you so much. I'll see you next week.